verify the topic if it's okay. Teams, lonely entrepreneurs. But I added the phrase lonely entrepreneur to emphasize, I'm Michael Jasienski, by the way, to emphasize that sometimes entrepreneurship begins with a single person starting a company. And some of the methods of thinking creatively about your business are, you don't need teams to really be creative, because you can apply some of the methods exactly by yourself. And it's okay, because that's how you need to sometimes begin. And practical approaches, but I also want to address some issues that are not really practical, but important, what to avoid, for example. Okay, so unlocking several issues relevant to social and psychological methods. So the idea is that we want better than this. In other words, hoping that maybe by fortunate coincidence we'll bump into an idea and then put them all together in a box by box and get the banana. We want something maybe more advanced than this. So we'll be asking about what are bridges and barriers that prevent us from being creative. And we begin with a warm-up. If you know this exercise, don't ruin the trouble for others, okay? So if you know, you can raise your hand that you know, but don't yell immediately the result, okay? So, the challenge for you. How to change 7 into 8 by adding just one line, and you are allowed to just add line, no other manipulation, no other modification. Any ideas? Yeah? We have some good students from the back.
We should add one L and I.
On what side?
Right side.
Hey! Alright, we'll see if this is the correct. Wonderful. The group support matters a lot to me. Okay. Let's keep on going. How to change 9 into 6 by adding just one line. You are allowed to only add something to this, not modify or change it. Just add. What to add and how to add it. What?
Can I add an S to it?
Is it okay? Is it ethical? He's the specialist. Is it ethical if you do this? Some lawyers immediately say, "Oh, come on, this is not a line."
It does not have to be straight line.
Yeah, I mean,
But it doesn't say that the word line doesn't imply that it's a straight line. But somehow, tell me why. What was the reason that you didn't? This was the reason. You got into immediately. See how fast you into the limitation that the world consists of only straight lines. So, and it's really annoying, yes, that this was the result. It's annoying that we get fooled so easily, so quickly. I didn't do much. I just showed you one example before. And this is really horrifying, how quickly we limit our solutions set, possible, collection of solutions, with such simple, silly tricks. And it's really difficult, breaking out of this limitation is really painful and difficult. We are trying to this is how you should feel. Break breaking from your limitations. It's difficult, could be painful, not for the rhino, because the rhino is made of rubber, but it's not easy. That's what this workshop is about. How to get out of the limitation. Not easy. So, an additional problem that we are also easily fooled by various things. That the world is complicated and we never know what we look at. Something is, but in fact it isn't. So that's why we always need critical methods of solution, looking for solutions, but also creative solutions. That's what it is. Now, this is a wonderful...
Here's to the crazy ones.
The voice of Steve
The misfits. The rebels.
From 20 years ago.
The troublemakers. The round pegs and the square holes. The ones who see things differently.
Of course.
They're not fond of rules. And they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius.
Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
So this is just a different way to encourage you to not be limited in your dreams. Not be limited in different ways. But it's an important psychological, mental setup, just like what Magdalena showed us with this Yes We Can. This is more intellectual approach to the same thing. And by the way, going back to what I was talking about yesterday, about the eclectic big database of different inspirations, make sure when you watch it on YouTube again and again that you know you can identify all those characters, all those faces who were shown. If you don't recognize someone, it means that your database may have holes in it. If you recognize Mahatma Gandhi or Maria Callas, who was there, and so on, that's good. But just watch it again and again and see if you can identify, because that will give you more power as entrepreneurs, ready to be flexible. And this is what we want to accomplish. It's a lovely woodcut from 16th century about this person exploring the world and finally getting to the end, the frontier, and seeing what's behind. And this is, good entrepreneurship is like that, building, going to the frontier. And but of course there are barriers and problems on the way. There's no question about it.
That's not good.
Oh, I don't need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Telephone.
No.
It
Sorry.
could happen to you.
Somebody! Hello? There are two people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody
track.
Well,
It's so
not
sad.
enough left to do.
The problem is how often in real life we end up in situations like this, kind of metaphorically speaking, yes, that we are stuck, we feel we are stuck and helpless because we don't see the solutions, the ways out. So this is a philosophical film, really, illustrating the limitations. But this is, of course, ridiculous. But in many other situations, it could be like that with a proper method of creative thinking, we could just realize where we are, and that the limitations are just in our heads, maybe, or not enough hormones of appropriate kind. Now, we have this a wonderful book that it's very likely was translated into Turkish, but I didn't check. The Art of Innovation by Tom Kelly. He talks about barriers of creativity and bridges of creativity. And we need to look and be aware that in some situations they affect us. And think about it. He lists them I listed them here in an alphabetical way. No, not alphabetical. Creative alphabetical way. Anonymity. Autonomy. We need to think, you can think, if they are good, if they are barriers or bridges. Bureaucracy, cleanliness, experts, hierarchy, improvisation, achievement, connections, good or bad, for innovative thinking. So this is what we want to return to, but we can translate anonymity is when you disappear, autonomy when you are independent, chaos you can translate into something surprising, bureaucracy is rules, cleanliness is order, experts is knowing something for sure, hierarchy is like aristocracy, improvisation is when you search, achievement is a different word that is not used very often, but you should know what it means. Meritocracy. It's like aristocracy based on not that you have blood of princes and kings, but based on merit. You are high in society because you deserve it, because of merit. And connections, in other words, doesn't have to mean anything bad, connections, but social capital. Who you know in a good sense. So this is what we'll kind of come back to when we think more about it, whether it's a bridge or a barrier.
All of them are bridges.
All of them are bridges. You think I'm so psychologically tricky that I would... All of them are bridges, and bridge is a good thing. That's what he's saying. Okay, we'll come back to this topic. We'll see. Now, this is one of those ways of rethinking how we function. What is called a cross-functional team, when we take this rigid organizational structure of an institution and take people from different branches and make a project team out of them. They may not know each other, but it's interesting that maybe this is something that is needed for creativity and for finding good innovative solutions. This is what you need, maybe. And then when the project is done, the team disappears. Because you don't need to have permanent, forever fixed, departments and cathedrals and, things like that. Cathedral in a sense that this is a term used in many universities, that is just a ranking higher than a department. Okay. Or you can have another perspective on how to promote creativity. This is an office from Google in Zurich. And in Zurich, they try to stimulate you into being creative. And the point is, maybe you don't need as much luxury to be creative, but just mostly you need human interactions that are healthy to be creative. And sometimes, how can you squeeze performance from your employees? Maybe it looks like in many companies, it looks like this. It's just in this case, it's a Shanghai school for sports, for sports that children, and I think the winner is the one who will hang the longest, I assume. And many of them are about to drop suspect that this one is pretty good. It's just, but it's not a victory stance, but just they got to hang to something. Anyway, the question is, do you want as boss, and many of you will become bosses at some point, do you want to have your employees do this as a kind of performance measure, or maybe not necessarily? Another issue, bridge or barrier, is this: creative disorder, or maybe not creative, or laws and rules. You want to establish very rigid types of behavior, or maybe not necessarily. Or like this, you put your employees here in contrast to the Google office. Is this how you must necessarily arrange people to work at their desks? Or maybe not. So I'm not giving you answers, I'm just suggesting that these are issues that are important and we need to rethink them. And, creativity is a very delicate animal, very, very tiny, little, fragile animal that rules can maybe block them. And sometimes you establish a rule that is just foolish, and it will block people's, how relaxed they are at work. And so as a result, they will not give you ideas because they will be embarrassed, or they will think it's against the rules. That would be a huge mistake. And that's usually, when they make mistakes because they are afraid that they will do something, say something, silly or irresponsible. This is North Korean soldier penalized for something. Probably not for a very sophisticated business idea, but you know what I mean. This is a metaphor for punishing people for something they did. In many corporations, you would have similar systems, not like this, but for a failed project, things like that you really need to think whether failure you would punish, or maybe you would reward people for trying. And if they fail occasionally, that's, c'est la vie. And the problem, this is a rector of one of Polish medical schools. The question is, do you feel that this is compatible with entrepreneurship and spirit of dynamic development, or maybe not necessarily? It's just, you can decide. People have different views. But I found this picture that was kind of, it's a scan of an old Xerox that I found somewhere, I don't know where. But it shows many corporations, at least in Poland. It's my first visit to Turkey, so I don't know. But in Poland, many people laugh when they see this picture. And the most creative, the ironic thing is, the most creative, you, would be in this region probably, before you get to that point, to the point that you look. Of course, you may end up being like that at some point. No, but probably not, because you are all much more beautiful than this guy was, even when he was your age. But this is a problem. Or I shouldn't say it. We should decide if it's a... No, I see, I said it too fast. Is this a bridge, which means this is how the world should be? Or this is a barrier to creativity and entrepreneurship? What do you think?
One second. You see, the second you see this picture, you want to change, so you want to do something else. So you don't want to be like the others, so this is automatically a bridge, because you don't want to be like that.
Oh, in this sense, he's saying that bridges are those examples that make you see that this is a problem. And exactly. And how to help this guy, whose head is not in exactly the most pleasant situation, but this would be, when you put a young, talented person to do Xeroxing in your company, or to order tickets for employees, for other older employees, a person who is at the most creative moment of her life, what happens is wasting precious moments. And what happens if you treat people like that? They quickly turn off initiative, turn into like office zombies. And it's not a mystery that it's probably not the way it should be, yes?
Today we celebrate the first glorious anniversary of the Information Purification Directives. Created for the first time in all history, a garden of pure ideology, where each one remain blue, secure from the pests of any conflict.
It's a commercial.
Force is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause.
And she's a woman entrepreneur.
Themselves together and be provided them with their own direction. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
Of course, referring to the book by Orwell, 1984, description of this totalitarian system against which Apple's creativity was supposed to rebel. And the totalitarian system, they wanted you to think that it was IBM, you know, IBM, the evil empire, and suddenly the creative young company introducing a computer. But the computer was less important, but more important was what you could accomplish with this and how creative you will become. You know, it was only once on television, and it became a legendary commercial. But it shows what is important in motivating people to be entrepreneurs. So, going back to this, what are bridges, what are barriers? We can kind of think about it. So, anonymity disappearance, good or bad? According to him, everything is a bridge because using reverse psychology, you know, bad example is a bridge because it makes you avoid bad example. So I respect that view, absolutely makes sense. So anonymity,
It's a barrier.
good or bridge or bad? Barrier.
I'm gonna think like normal people, you know.
Okay, we'll see. Autonomy, independence, good or bad?
Bridge.
All right. What I wrote doesn't mean it's true. You can make fun of me afterwards. I just need to, you know, I cannot change it while you are talking. Chaos or surprise, good or bad?
Barrier.
Okay, we'll see. Bureaucracy, rules.
Barrier.
Okay. Cleanliness, order.
Bridge.
Mr. Jasensky wrote barrier. Maybe he is wrong. Okay. Experts, certainty.
Bridge.
Aristocracy, hierarchy, good or bad?
Barrier.
All right. Improvisation, searching. Achievement, merit based. Connection, social capital. Okay, yes. And this was kind of the initial first take, but then of course I realized that, wait a second, some people may see it differently. So, barrier, but also needed sometimes. And I even wrote a paper about e-learning systems in which anonymity is great because it prevents you from being embarrassed that you said something very creative. And you'll be surprised that this is a mental block for many people. Okay, so it's barrier, but not necessarily. Autonomy is a bridge, but not necessarily. Sometimes just too much independence means lonely. Chaos is a barrier or a bridge, depending on how you look at it. Chaos, creative chaos, or too much chaos. Bureaucracy, barrier, but deadlines are good. And sometimes the administrators set deadlines for us, for creative scientists or almost like artists, and deadlines for submitting a grand experimental procedures that were finished. You must do it. And as a scientist, you say, maybe next year, because right now I have exciting new experiments, and the officials from European Union say, no, you must submit by March 31st. But it's a good thing sometimes to be motivated like that. Order, barrier. Barrier if it's too much of order and cleanliness. Sometimes you need creative disorder. Experts, it is a barrier that they know that something cannot be done. But they are needed if you have many ideas that were proposed during brainstorming session. Many ideas, but sometimes just at some point someone needs to evaluate them. Aristocracy, if you can imagine that it's not a barrier, then please speak up now or forever hold your peace.
You know, if you are working in the lowest of the hierarchy, if you are in the lowest, then even though you're working, so you're basically doing an easy job. So you get to think about other stuff. You don't have to think about your job. You only work. You can use your brain for other things. You can think and then move on. So you're gonna
That's a wonderful, optimistic thing. Yeah, Bob, I know that you are such an energetic man and full of ideas, so that's why I'll put you in this lowest position so that you will have, you will deliver mail and sweep floors, but it gives you time to fantastic, creativity. Lovely. All right. He's a guy who can twist the horror into something positive. That's wonderful in a sense. Okay, improvisation, bridge, but sometimes too much it becomes chaotic, so not productive. Achievement, based something on merit is, according to me at least, it's a bridge, it's a good thing. And if you see it's a bad thing, then I don't know what to say. And connection, network, social capital, sometimes, like my son who had to switch off his Facebook for at least a couple of hours a day because he was too distracted, because he was a bimbo when he was growing up and he needed to block his own Facebook for his own good. Luckily he did, and he finished his PhD. Okay, now another take on creativity. You see, we can guess what the challenge is, yes? And what is the challenge in this case? We know more or less, yes? Rubik's Cube, you want the walls to be blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean. Okay, so you use the system, whatever works. This is how entrepreneurial spirit should work. You kind of say, okay, what was the job to be done to achieve the walls of the same color? All right. And this is the whole mindset for entrepreneurship, is that don't be afraid to break the customs. Yeah, people say, yeah, but it's not really fair. You expected to do this. And an entrepreneur would say, yeah, it's not ethical really to paint the Rubik's Cube because I'm making fun of him, of course, but he had good comments before, so he can take it. But you know what I mean? It's just a disregard for what is appropriate. No, it doesn't matter. Accomplish the results. In just the same way, many of you are students in strict sciences or engineering. It's just like in mathematics. Until a mathematical theorem is proven through steps, actual derivation, then it really is not proven. But computer scientists took derivations and they just checked values from minus 200 million to plus 200 million, and they say it works for whatever values you imagine, it will work, this equation. So use it. But the mathematicians say, yeah, but we don't really know if it works because it has not been proven. Yeah, it is in real life, in the known universe it will work. That's the idea, that we should not be discouraged too much by what is appropriate. Break the rules. get the flag down in 17 years. And this is, of course, who? Do you recognize him?
Rogers! I say fall in!
Captain Rogers. Hey, that's not fair. Of course, you recognize Captain America. But it shows looking for alternative, solutions to the problem. And another thing, creativity must have limitations.
Alright, first you flick this switch, then this switch. That activates. Then you push this button, which will give you 5 minutes to get out of it. Now, whatever you do, don't push this button. Because that will set off the bomb immediately and we'll all be dead. Now, repeat back what I just said. Uh-huh. That's right. No! No, that's the button that will kill everyone! Try again. Uh-huh. No, that's exactly what you just
Good
said.
is the
How is
user.
it possible?
User of
Which
our
one is the button
design.
you're supposed to push? Point to it. No! Hey, you're making him nervous! Shut up and give me some tape. Does anybody have any tape out there? I want to put some tape over the death button. Nobody has any tape! Not a single person has tape! You have an atomic bomb in your bag. If anybody's gonna have tape, it's you! I have to do everything! You are wasting a lot of time!
There will be trouble. So,
That's a really bad sign.
this was an example where creative solution of a designer who was designing the thing with the death button on him was not really functionally sophisticated. So now, looking for tape is one of those typical examples where people use what is known as workarounds. You work around the problem, in this case, cover the tape with where the designers didn't think through the design. So creativity did not follow functionality. And this shows that however creative we are, we maybe need experts after the brainstorming session who would look at our solution to the problem and say, don't put the death button here because you'll have problems. And you'll force people to use tape to cover it as a workaround solution. And the same way, I noticed when I was buying train tickets in Poland, a lady cashier sitting there has this screen and she needs to punch on the screen, touch screen, my coordinates for my ticket. And I noticed that many of them use pencil with the rubber at the end to do that. Interesting. Why pencil? You need to hold pencil. Turns out, she said, can you imagine? First day when I came back home, my finger was bloody because if you touch the screen 10,000 times during the day, it's not a good thing. So the workaround was a pencil with a rubber because it protects her finger from tapping on the screen so much. But this is just again, I'm not sure how to avoid this issue and this problem, maybe using some coating for this glass to make something softer. But creativity must follow functionality. And how to be creative in an interesting way so that we as designers think kind of what would others see and what kind of problems others would detect with our design. And the method is called change ego. What is that? It means you force yourself what question about your product would be asked by someone. And by someone, meaning who? Okay, not you. You are just one possible user of your own idea. So maybe, and your colleagues, your friends, you started your company with guys who look like you, or ladies, 3 ladies, identical, in all their customs. So maybe they are not the best representative example. And of course, in large corporations, it's clear that people use teams of researchers, they do focus groups and so on and so on. I understand that. But if we are a lonely entrepreneur and we want to think, what would others think about my idea, my new online service, my new little thing that I want to sell because the thing does the and it's really exciting. You feel it every 2 hours and you do this and people love it. Well, the idea is, will it work? What would other users think about my idea? Okay, here's the list. In my boundless creativity, I created this list of possible users for my little device that it's called the Oomph, I'd say. Or my new tablet, or my new, bank service that I offer. And the question is, I'm just a guy. What would Lara Croft say about my design? What would Ablai Khan from Kazakhstan, if he used my design? The fact that he's long dead many centuries ago doesn't matter. He represents a certain category of users. Beyoncé, okay, she needs to use it in a certain way, like maybe different way that Bilbo Baggins, who was a hobbit from Lord of the Rings. He represents a certain type of user who would have certain needs. And maybe this will just help my creativity. In the same way you can do it. Can you imagine now that we are introducing something that we already know what to ask about? Let's say a tablet. A tablet like Steve Jobs was introducing iPad. Okay, what would be the questions? The idea is pick one person, and whether they are fictional or real, alive or dead, it doesn't matter. Because we know what the problems they could have. We don't know. We could imagine. If you are, someone climbing the mountains in the winter, your challenge for your iPad would be different than if you are a swimmer under, deep diver, or Angela Merkel, the politician. Who knows? Yes. Now, can you suggest any questions? Yes.
For example, the first one would say, can I play music with the device?
50 Cent?
Yeah.
He would not say you cannot. He would ask because he doesn't know yet. But the question that 50 Cent would have would be,
can I play music?
Can I play music? And probably could be more specific than that, which means...
Can I register? Register.
Register music. Okay. So if I'm practicing my hip-hop lyrics, can I very easily do it? But if I recorded the lyrics, can I maybe add the beat to it? So that so I can tell if the lyrics fit the special rhythm. Remember, in the club, boom, 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 boom. It's a different rhythm than many other. I love 50 Cent because of the special rhythms that he's using. But it's a good question. Anybody else? Can pick anybody else?
Like Stephen Hawking.
Yeah.
Would say, is it compatible with my computer?
Stephen Hawking would probably ask, as you know, he has only one muscle left active, and he's using that to control a certain device. He's lost the ability to even communicate with voice. But for people paralyzed, can I communicate with a voice? So that would be a question maybe not about hardware but about software, but still, is there a sound recognition chip installed in it? Okay, anybody else? Somebody who could ask an interesting question as a potential user of a tablet.
Leonardo da Vinci.
Okay.
You'll ask if you can draw with it.
Okay, if the screen allows you, because as a new user you don't know if the screen allows you maybe only to type letters, but doesn't have this ability to paint, to move your finger, or maybe what's the quality of the color palette that is available. Exactly. Okay. Yeah?
Does Darth Vader have fingers to use a tablet? I mean, like, you know, touch.
Okay, so the gloves, yes, if you have a glove, can you use the touch screen? Huh. That's a question. And a similar question to someone who is climbing the mountains in the winter, and they have gloves, and they have wonderful map or something, you know, here, and do you need special gloves, or is the screen working without? Absolutely valid question.
Like Usain Bolt, can it compute the speed?
Can it compute the speed if I have it in my pocket? Yes, assuming that it would not slow me down too much. Using speedometer, multiplying my steps, my steps that I make. Can I use it, or do I always need to hire someone who will time my running? Or can I do it? Or maybe I need a sensor and the iPod will be somewhere on the bench and I can train without an assistant. Exactly. Okay. Anybody else? We need to move on, but you have an idea. Users who are very different from us. Okay. No, thank you. Users who are different from us may ask questions that are interesting, so that we don't commit some huge mistake.
You're late.
Another issue. Very important issue.
My name is Zed. You're all here because you're the best of the best. Marines, Air Force, Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, NYPD. And we're looking for one of you. Just one. What will follow is a series of simple tests for motor skills, concentration, stamina. I see we have a question.
Yeah, I'm sorry, maybe you already answered this, but why exactly are we here?
Son?
Second Lieutenant Jake Jensen, West Point, graduate with honors. We're here because you're looking for the best of the best of the best, sir!
What's so funny, Edwards?
Your boy Captain America over here. The best of the best of the best, sir! Yeah, with honors. Yeah, he's just really excited and he has no clue why we're here. That's very funny to me. Y'all ain't laughing though.
The crucial point comes here. How you should approach the problem.
Let's get going.
This is the challenge now. You have a problem to solve. How do you go about it? Crucial point. So, as an entrepreneur, do you have the courage to change the rules of the game? Game changer, yes? Which means there was a lot of peer pressure, a lot of social expectation, what is inappropriate to do, and especially the noise that it created. But this is essential if you want to play the game of changing the conditions. Who said that you cannot do it? Okay. Now, Another approach, how to solve problem and how to avoid social pressure. Exactly, this is the problem. How to avoid a situation where people would be embarrassed to be creative. Can you imagine that you could say, well, how can you be embarrassed from being creative? Well, you never know. So, you use the idea that was developed by the very creative author, Edward de Bono, who proposed that to be creative, you should somehow protect yourself by wearing a color thinking hat. It's a well-known in business and management method of 6 thinking hats. And I use a hat in a group of young entrepreneurs, as you could tell, to illustrate that very often we say things in a, not precisely, as if we had on our heads multi-colored hats. And that's not good for the quality of our thinking. So, Edward de Bono proposed that those thinking hats are just interesting tricks because they help you discipline your thinking. That's first thing, and protect your personal, feeling that if you say something silly, people make fun of you. They will never make fun of you because what you say during the debate is just a function you perform. People don't know what you think because you said things in a colorful hat. So whatever your personal views are, it's another issue. You are just contributing ideas that are in a certain mask or a hat. So, what is that? The first of 6 thinking hats is the hat that is white. Okay, white hat. This is your protection because you'll be saying only innocent facts. You are bringing to a discussion numbers, information. No absolutely personal views about anything. Nobody knows what you really think about it. This is just your role that you play. It's a white hat role. And you could say, he's so unimaginative that he's just bringing facts. Somebody has to give us facts. Okay? A second role is red. Red role is very important because it shows that somebody during a brainstorming session, kind of thinking session, should bring about things that people are embarrassed to say in professional context very often. For example, religious values, social issues, ecological values, that something is not ecological. If I say it like this, many corporations, colleagues would say, oh yeah, Michael, you are just, go and hug the tree if you are so ecological. Because it's kind of easy to make fun of that. And in my red hat, someone needs to bring the issue that on a Sunday, maybe it's a good idea that shopping centers should be closed. That's the big issue right now in Poland. One of the political parties is saying on Sundays shopping centers should be closed because people should focus on religious life. This is what they think. Okay? And as if they said it in a red hat. The question is how to debate this issue. Okay? Now, black hat is something that is very pleasant because you can only say negative things about the idea. You don't have to be nice and positive. You can be, what is called the devil's advocate. You kind of say things, what if it was wrong? It's a stupid idea because people should sit at home and drink vodka, And this is the idea. I don't even have to propose what they should do. It's just leaving home is not worth it anyway. Plus the what? The questioning the facts, negative attitude. Somebody would say, oh, wait a second, because the online system wants to log me in and feels not very comfortable if I don't. Okay. Yes, indeed. Okay. Just a moment. So, yes, indeed, in 7 out of 28 countries in Europe, it could be completely wrong. You know, it's a fact. There are, or in 55 provinces of Sweden, they really voted to close shopping centers on Sundays. Okay. And yeah, we'll have time to criticize everything because it's always easy to criticize. But what is the problem with criticizing? People say, you look so critical, you are so mature and sophisticated. No, but the problem is that you could be too negative. You don't want to criticize because it's not polite. Your friend proposed the idea. You don't want to do it to your friend. So maybe you not want to say something nice. And Yellow Hat. It's a wonderful idea to support, to close shopping centers because of family life. Yes, people need to do it, and in fact, there's evidence that in those 55 provinces of southern Sweden, the family life index increased by 1.2%. Okay, very nice. See, yes, it's a good idea. Now the problem, what could be the problem with being positive, having Yellow Hat? The problem is that people say, that Michael, he's so naive. He's so, we expect more mature criticism, but not just always saying, yeah. That's not, people may be embarrassed to say, or because they said it because it was friend who proposed the idea. So, Yellow Hat is not always easy to wear. Okay? A green hat, however, is an interesting hat because it's a hat in which you have ideas. Green, creative, fertile ideas. What if we somehow can find ways of combining religious life on Sunday with the shopping centers being open? Okay? This is the question to which the last hat responds. This is the blue hat, who says, okay, it's an interesting idea, but do we need any data which support this green idea that we could somehow combine it? Could anybody give me some data? Oh yes, it sounds like a wonderful idea, but we do need data. Well, in Belgium, they had in fact solved this problem in which index of religious life is at its peak and shopping centers are open. How did they, and the blue hat asked, okay, what's the solution, how to do it? And the green hat is saying, we should devote 50 square meters in each shopping center if they want to be open on Sunday to build a chapel, to build a small church. Well, I like this idea because it combines, it fulfills my religious expectations. I hate this idea because each square meter of a shopping center is to generate income and taxes for the local government and not, support anything. Well, yes, but will the contribution, this is not really an idea, this is just a conclusion that it's a great thing because people will use gasoline and drive to shopping centers and at the same time fulfill religious obligations. So I like this idea. Yes, in fact, each square meter of a shopping center brings 1.2 euro per hour of opening of the shopping center. So this is what we know we will be losing 50 square meters times, for a chapel to be built. And in fact, in southern Poland, there is a shopping center in which there is a chapel, like in airports. Airports can build it, then a shopping center can have it as well. Now, the idea is that someone in a blue hat can be a moderator, but usually in a normal session, a moderator is just one person who can control the whole debate. But that's not fair. It's better we don't want any political manipulation of our brainstorming session. We want anyone to wear this hat. And each of the hats is open to every participant. And that's the crucial point, that you cannot manipulate the discussion. All the viewpoints are discussed, and if someone feels that some issue is being manipulated, then in a blue hat can say, hey, we kind of looked at negative aspects. Could anybody look in a yellow hat at positive aspects? And in the same person could say, because I see some positive aspects. So you don't need, according to De Bono, more than 6 hats. It's just you need order. And he's saying that it's more efficient than typical brainstorm sessions. Okay, my time is up, and we could have many, many more methods, but at least I feel we addressed some of the issues.